Hello friends, I welcome you to yet another e-learning session of English grammar today. English grammar is one area which students generally don't admire much because they don't have a very good understanding of English grammar. They don't have a very good understanding of the nuances and technicalities of English grammar. And you would find different competitive exams would pose you with a lot of questions based on English grammar. English grammar in itself is a very wide area. It might cover anything. Agenda of the discussion today is to discuss on the very basics of English grammar, wherein we'll be covering parts of speech in detail and how do they lead to different problems appearing in competitive examinations. Let us start discussing on parts of speech then. We'll be talking about 8 parts of speech in the session today. By the end of the session, you will be able to learn how these parts of speech play a relevant role in your problem solving questions of grammar. So we have the first and the foremost type of part of speech coming, which is most significantly used, that is nouns. The second type appearing here is pronouns. Pronouns are the words which are used at the place of nouns. We'll have a detailed discussion around all these parts of speech later. Then comes verbs, which plays a very crucial role, followed by adjectives. Then you have adverbs coming up. Prepositions follow. Conjunctions. And then come interjections at the end. So, let us start discussing on what nouns are. So, noun can be broadly the name of a person. It can be something like boy, girl, king, Rohit, Rajiv. It can be the name of a person, as I said. Noun can be a place also. For an example, if you say India, you say a country, continent, Delhi, all of them are places, so they are nouns. Noun can be a thing also. A television, a computer system, a mobile phone, a charger, all of them are things, hence they are nouns. Do you think it is sufficient? No. Now see, the definition of nouns that we have learnt in our school days was noun is the name of a place, person or a thing, but that is not sufficient. Noun would also cover an idea. You should remember, noun can be an abstract thing also. It's not necessary noun has to be always a concrete entity. Noun can be an idea as well. Now we'll be discussing about the types of nouns. Starting with the two most important types, common nouns and proper nouns. Can you differentiate between the two? If I give you the name of India, is it a common noun or a proper noun? Yes, you identified correctly. India is a proper noun. Let us understand what is the difference between a common noun and a proper noun. Common noun is when you define a general category. You don't name a particular being who's a part of that common noun. For an example, if you say boy, that's a common noun. But on the other hand, if you mention the name of a boy who's a part of that broad category, if I say Rajiv, that's a proper noun. John, that's again a proper noun. Why? Because I'm not defining a broad category. I'm talking about a specific type of noun that becomes a proper noun. The next example, as you can see here, common noun, a girl. Girl broadly defines a category. You are not referring to a specific girl. But on the other hand, when you say Mary, that becomes a proper noun. Let's have a few more examples for common and proper nouns. If I say Yamuna, what do you think? Which category would you be putting it in? It's a common noun or a proper noun? See, Yamuna is not defining a broad category. Yamuna is the name of a specific river. So Yamuna would be a proper noun. On the other hand, if I give you river, that becomes a common noun. If I say continent, would that be a common noun or a proper noun? Continent would be a common noun. On the other hand, if I say Asia, that becomes a proper noun. Let's have a few more examples. If I say Edward de Bono, that's a common noun or a proper noun? Edward de Bono is a specific name. It's a name of an author, a very popular author. So that is a proper noun. On the other hand, if I say an author, that becomes a common noun. Few more examples. Gurgaon, that becomes a common noun or a proper noun? That's a proper noun. That's a name of a specific place. On the other hand, if I say city, if I say village, if I say town, if I say country, all of them are common nouns. I believe so far what we've covered should be clear. Let us move on to a few more types. The easiest ones that we all are aware of: singular nouns and plural nouns. When you say singular noun, you are talking about a single entity, one person, one thing, one place, or one idea. On the other hand, plural nouns are more in number. So anything which is two or more than two in number becomes a plural noun. Let us take some examples in front. Boy, that's one person, so that's singular noun. On the other hand, plural nouns becomes boys. Now you should remember, a proper noun cannot have its plural entity. Boy can become boys, girl can become girls, but John cannot become Johns. Similarly, Mary cannot become Marys. So plural nouns can be made out of common nouns or various other types of nouns that we'll be discussing on. Now, how to convert a singular noun into plural noun? We'll have a detailed discussion around that in the coming slides to come. Let us move to the third type now, which is singular possessive and plural possessive. If I have to say a boy's bag, that means I'm talking about a bag which belongs to a specific boy, to a particular boy. In that case, that's a singular possessive pronoun. Possession is ownership. So boys, when you say boy apostrophe s, that refers to singular boy, one boy. But if a possessive noun has to be framed out of a plural noun, so in that case, you will keep apostrophe at the end. You would say boys, B-O-Y-S, and then apostrophe at the end. If I have to say this is a boys' school, that means I'm talking about a school that belongs to many boys. So in that case, I would use the noun that is plural possessive, B-O-Y-S apostrophe. Same thing applies to girls and girls. If I say girl apostrophe s, that means I'm referring to one girls. On the other hand, if I say girls and then apostrophe coming at the end, that means this is a plural possessive noun that belongs to all the girls. Let us continue further. Now, as we discussed about singular and plural nouns, let us see how to convert singular nouns into plural nouns. There are different rules applying for that. So, there are some general rules for changing the singular form of a noun to its plural form. In case of common noun, as we have seen, common noun is any broad category that you refer to. Pen is singular. If you have to convert pen, which is a singular entity, into plural, you will just place s at the end. That would make it pens. Similarly, for collective nouns, we'll see what collective nouns are later. Collective noun is a group of things, a group of people, a group of entities which is referred together as a single unit. So army here is a collective noun which is singular. You're referring to one army. If it has to be converted into plural form, since it is ending with y, anything that ends with y, if you have to convert it into plural form, you'll remove y and replace it with ies. So army becomes armies, that becomes plural. Now, proper, abstract and material nouns can have plural forms when they are used as common nouns. All of you must be aware that most common form of forming a plural is by adding s to the noun. As we saw in the case of pen, pens, hand becomes hands, house becomes houses. A few more examples coming up. the plural of the nouns which are ending either with x, with sh, or with ch, a his sound, is formed by adding es at the end. For an example, glass, which is ending with s. So in that case, you would add es to it because it's already ending with s. You just cannot make it glass followed by s. So in that case, when it is ending with s, you'll have to add es to it. Or when it is ending with x, as in the case of next word, box, that becomes boxes. Brush, ending with sh, becomes brushes. Bench, ending with ch, becomes benches. Now, the nouns which are ending with y, if you have to convert them into plural form, you'll have to replace y with ies. As we took the example of army, which is a collective noun earlier, so army, since it is ending with y, if it has to be converted into plural, we'll replace y with ies. So in that case, it becomes armies. Lady, ending with y, to be replaced with ies, becomes ladies. Baby becomes babies. Fly, flies. Now, there are certain exceptions to that when y does not necessarily become ies. Let us see what are those cases. If there is a vowel before y, so in that case we would just be adding s to the noun to make it plural. Monkey. So monkey is ending with y, but it has a vowel coming before it. Vowels are a, e, I, o, u. So because it is ending with y and it has a vowel coming before it, so we'll just add s to it and we would not be replacing y with ies here. Next example following, boy, ending with y and having a vowel o before it. So in that case it becomes boys. Toy, ending with y and having an o before it, becomes toys. Similarly, in all these examples, the same rule follows. Donkey becomes donkeys. Day becomes days. And key becomes keys. Now, there are some nouns which are used in plural sense, but they appear singular. Let us see what are those. These cattle. That's a mistake that many students commit while solving their competitive exams grammar questions. These cattle. You should not say, first of all, this cattle, or you should not even say these cattle. Cattle in itself is a group of animals. So cattle is a collective noun. It should not have s coming after it, and similarly it cannot be used in the singular sense. These people. People in itself is plural. You cannot say these peoples. These folk. Folk in itself is again a collective noun. You cannot say these folks. Now, certain compound nouns. Compound nouns are the nouns when you have some sort of addition done to the main noun. Now, how to convert that into plural form? Compound nouns will be converted into their plurals by adding s to the important word. Now you should understand what is the important word in that case. The example, mother-in-law. Now here the focus is on mother actually, the focus is not on law. So in that case, if mother-in-law has to be converted into plural forms, you would say mothers-in-law and not mother-in-laws. Same applies to father-in-law, because father is an important word here. If father-in-law has to be converted into plural form, you would say fathers-in-law and not father-in-laws. Step-son. The important word here is son. So you would convert this word into plural form by saying step-sons. Passerby. The important word here is passer, it's not by. So if it has to be converted into plural, you would do the same. Identify the important word passers by. Maidservant. The important word here is servant. If it has to be converted into plural form, you would say maid servants and not maid's servant. A few more concepts about nouns. Some nouns are used in a singular form. For an example, this scenery is beautiful. Scenery in itself comprises of all the scenes which are a part of it, but scenery is always used as a single entity, as a singular entity. All this information was wrong. Information is again a collection of many pieces of information. But you should remember, information is always referred as a single entity, as a singular entity. Furniture is sold here. Now, furniture would again in turn encompass many things which are a part of it, but furniture in itself is used as a single entity. Now, there are some nouns which have the same form both in singular and plural. Let us see which are those nouns. This deer, these deer. Deer, an animal, is used as the same form in singular and plural nouns. So you can say this deer, or if you are referring to more than one deer, be it 2, 10, 20, 50, it would always remain deer. You don't need to add s to it. This sheep and these sheep. Sheep always remains singular, so sheep, sheep, it's the same. This fish and these fish. This fish refers to one, these fish again refers to many. You don't need to say these fishes, but there is an exception to this rule in case of fish. When you are referring to different varieties of fish, for an instance, there are some fish of one variety in X aquarium. There are some other fish of Y variety in Y aquarium. So if I have to refer to the fish of both aquarium, in that case I can say these fishes. But this rule, this exception applies only to fish and not to deer and sheep. There can be many more examples for the nouns which are used in the similar form in singular and plural, like hair, always the same, singular, plural. Soap, you should remember there is nothing like soaps, it's always soap, singular, plural. Now we have a practice exercise coming up. The nouns which are used only in singular though they look like plurals. The news is, it's always singular. Physics is, though it is ending with s, but again you should keep in mind it's always singular. Mathematics is, statistics is, politics is, an innings, innings is always one entity, a means again is. So all of them are nouns which appear plural because they are ending with s, but they're always singular. So you should pay attention to these words when you are solving your questions. Now again, continuing further with a few more types of nouns. Concrete nouns. So concrete noun is the name of a person or a thing which can be seen or which can be touched. In other words, you can also call them tangible nouns. Tangible is touchable. A noun which can be seen, anything, place, person, which can be seen, which can be touched, is a concrete noun or a tangible noun. Nouns can also name things that cannot be seen or touched, but they can be thought or felt. Such nouns are known as abstract nouns. They express a quality, a state, a feeling, or an action. So an abstract noun is an idea. For example, honesty. You cannot see what is honesty, you cannot touch what is honesty, but you can always feel honesty. Childhood, happiness, bravery, kindness, polite behavior, sadness, euphoria. All of them are examples to abstract nouns, or these are also known as intangible nouns. They cannot be seen, they cannot be touched, but you can always feel them. Now, revising what we've learned so far with the help of a few examples. As we saw, a common noun is the noun of one class or kind. Some examples here. As you can see, chair, that's a common noun. That's one class or kind. It's a category. Crow. Crow is again a common noun. Flower, you're not referring to a specific type of flower. If you were, in that case it becomes a proper noun. But right now you're talking about a general kind, which is flower. That becomes a common noun. The next type of nouns coming up, proper nouns. Proper noun is a specific name. When you say a city, that's a common noun. Delhi becomes a proper noun. When you say a man, common noun. Ram becomes a proper noun. Mountain becomes a common noun. Everest, on the other hand, becomes a proper noun. The third type that we took just a while back, material nouns or concrete nouns. The names of things from which other things are made. Water, gold, wood. So concrete nouns or material nouns are the ones which can be seen, which can be touched, or which are tangible nouns. Later we would see that material nouns are divided into two parts, which are countable and uncountable nouns. The fourth type now here, which is collective nouns. Now a collective noun is a group of things which are considered as a single unit. Fleet, army, bunch. So when you say bunch, are you referring to flowers individually, or you're referring to all the flowers as one unit? Yes, it's the second one. We are referring to all the flowers as one single entity. So collective nouns are always considered as a single entity, as a single unit. Some more examples of collective nouns can be a chain of islands, as we say. Archipelago, that's another word which is used for a group of islands. Some other examples can be words like panel, jury, words like cattle. All of them are collective nouns. Now we have an exercise coming up for you. As we talked about material nouns are divided in two parts, countable and uncountable nouns. We have a table given here. We need to identify out of these nouns which all are countable nouns and which all are uncountable nouns. Before we start with the exercise, let me give you the definition of a countable noun and an uncountable noun. Countable nouns are the ones which are easily countable in number. You can always count them on your fingers. Uncountable nouns are the nouns which cannot be counted, but these are measurable nouns, you should remember. So when you say a bucket, that's a countable noun, because bucket, the number of buckets can always be counted, whether it is 1, 2 or more. But when you say water, that is not countable. You cannot count water, but you can always measure it. So water becomes an uncountable noun. When you say bottle, that's a countable noun. When you say a chair, that's a countable noun. Boy, bag, girl, school, all of them are countable nouns. But when you say wheat cannot be counted. It cannot be easily counted, but it can be measured, so that becomes an uncountable noun. When you say ice, that's again an uncountable noun. When you say sugar, rice, all of them are uncountable nouns. Now let us do this exercise in front of us. We'll pick up all the words one by one. Apple. Can it be counted in number? Yes. So it is a countable noun. Star. Again a countable noun. Now you should remember, a countable noun does not mean that you can always count the exact number of stars which are there in sky. A countable noun just implies that it is possible to count it in number, though the number can be infinite also. Cloth, again countable, you can count it. Freedom. Now freedom is an abstract noun. You can always feel it, you can perceive it, but you cannot touch it, you cannot see it. So freedom is none of the two. Freedom is actually an abstract noun, or it's an idea. Furniture. Now what do you think? Furniture is countable or uncountable? Furniture is a collective noun. It's referred as one single unit. A picture, countable noun. Stone, again countable. Dirt. Dirt is uncountable. Paper. The number of papers can always be counted easily. Paper becomes a countable noun. Class. If you look at class as a noun, it's a collective noun, and at the same time it is a countable noun also. Family. Family is again the same. It's a collective noun and a countable noun as well. Milk cannot be counted. It's an uncountable noun. Shop can be counted. Pen, countable. tea, uncountable. Poetry, countable. Poem, countable. Team, a collective noun as well as a countable noun. Now, if you look at the last two words, they may have different implications and different meanings behind them. When you say iron, so iron can be even the iron which we use for pressing our clothes, for ironing our clothes. So if you are referring to that iron, then it is countable, otherwise it is uncountable. Glass, on the other hand, is uncountable. After covering nouns in detail, we'll move on to the second part of speech now, which is a verb. Verb, no doubt, plays a very important role in understanding all the parts of speech. You would find many errors, many grammatical errors which are based on verbs in your competitive exams. Now, what is a verb? A verb is a word that expresses an action or otherwise helps to make a statement. Let us understand it with the help of some examples. If I say, he runs fast. So, a word that expresses action here is runs. So, an action itself is a verb. He goes, he comes, they join together, they work hard. So, all of them are verbs. A sentence cannot have its entity without a verb. So, verb either expresses an action or it would otherwise help a sentence to make a statement. The girl is smart. So, in that case, in this sentence, there is no action taking place. But there is something which is helping the sentence to make it complete. The girl is smart. So, is here is an auxiliary verb. It is also known as a helping verb. You can also say verb is a word that links subject to the predicate. Now, what is a predicate? Predicate is the rest of the part of the sentence except subject and verb. So, when you have a verb that links subject to the predicate. Here we have a few examples which are given for verbs. It can be any be form. When you say be form, you mean to say is, am, are, was, were, will, shall. All of them are be forms. Or some other examples can be words like taste, feel, sound, look, appear, become, seem, grow, remain, stay, etc. So every sentence must have a verb. A sentence cannot be complete without having a verb in it. Now we'll see different types of verbs. The first one, the action verbs which express mental or physical action. He rode the horse to victory. Rode is the past form of verb ride. So, rode in itself indicates a physical action. So, action verb can be either indicating a mental action or it can be physical action. He works hard on his studies. That indicates a mental action. So, action verb indicates any sort of action. He goes, they come, my teacher teaches me in the class. So, all of them are action verbs. The other type can be linking verbs. Linking verbs make a statement by connecting the subject with a word that describes or explains it. He has been sick. Now, linking verb here is has been, since it is linking he, the subject, with sick, that is the predicate, the rest of the part of the sentence. So, as we saw, a verb can be either an action verb or it can be a linking verb. Broadly, verbs can be divided in three parts. You can also call them tenses. They can be divided in three parts, which are present verbs, present tense, past verb or past tenses, and future verb or future tenses. Present verb indicates an action which is taking place right now, which is taking place currently. Past verb is an action which took place in the past. And future verb or future tenses indicate the actions which will be taking place in the future. So a verb does two things in the sentence. Firstly, it shows the action or the state of being of the subject. The boy walks to school. So walks here indicates the action or the state of being, as we saw. The flower is beautiful. You can also say this is linking verb is here, which is connecting the noun flower with the predicate beautiful. So is a linking verb here. It also shows the time of the action. As we talked about it, tenses. The boy walked to school. That indicates the action has been completed in past. If you say the boy will walk to school, that means the action is yet to take place. After nouns and verbs, we've come to the third most important part of speech, which is a pronoun. So what is a pronoun? Pronoun is any word which is used instead of a noun. As we have seen, noun is either a place, a person, a thing, or an idea. So pronouns are the words which are used at the place of nouns. It can be used in the place of one or more nouns. It may stand for a person, a place, thing, or an idea. We'll start discussing on different types of pronouns now. The first type coming up here is personal pronouns. Personal pronouns are the pronouns which refer to the noun directly. I, me, mine, you, your, yours, she, her, hers, it, its, we, us, our, ours, they, them, their, theirs, myself, yourself. We'll understand it better with the help of a few examples. I cheated you. I is the pronoun here. Instead of using a noun here, I'm using pronoun I. So I cheated you. So I here is the subjective pronoun since it has replaced the subject of the sentence. If I say he cheated me, so me in this case is a personal pronoun that is playing the role of objective personal pronoun. He cheated me. Since we have replaced some other word that was an object with me, that becomes a personal pronoun. We'll have some more examples coming up on it later. The second type of pronoun now, which is indefinite pronoun. You should remember one characteristic of indefinite pronouns that would help you in your grammar questions. Indefinite pronouns are always singular pronouns. You should always have a singular verb coming after it. Anybody. So anybody is, each one of you is, either is, none, someone, one, are always singular. The third type of pronouns, demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative pronouns are used to demonstrate something, some person, some place, or some idea. This is a good boy. That means you are indicating to a person. That, these, those, all are demonstrative pronouns. These is the plural form of this. Similarly, those makes that plural. The next type of pronouns, which is interrogative pronouns, the pronouns which are used to question. Who cheated you? Whom? With whom did you go to the market? What is your name? Which? Whose? All of them are interrogative pronouns. After covering pronouns, we come to the next type of part of speech, that is the adjectives. Adjectives are the words which modify either a noun or a pronoun. As we have seen earlier, pronouns are the same as nouns only, because pronouns are the words which are used instead of nouns. So adjectives are the words which modify either a noun or a pronoun. An adjective would answer these questions. Did you lose your address book? So which book did you lose? Your address book. Is that a wool sweater? So what kind of sweater it is? It's a wool sweater. And generally you can notice one thing, all these adjectives are placed before the nouns. In the previous sentence, address book. So address was modifying book, a noun. So address is placed before that. A wool sweater. Wool is an adjective, modifying sweater. So it is placed before that. Just give me 5 minutes. How much time? 5 minutes. So minutes is a noun here. 5 is an adjective. You can remember adjectives can play the role of qualifying words like wool sweater or address book, or they can play the role of quantifying words also. Now the next part of speech which plays a very important role, and we should understand the difference between adjectives and adverbs in detail because they are very confusing. Adverbs are the words which modify or describe a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. These last two parts are very important. Adjectives, as we saw, play the role of modifying a noun or a pronoun. Adverbs, on the other hand, modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. An adverb would answer the following questions. He ran quickly. So how did he run? He ran quickly. She left yesterday. When did she leave? She left yesterday. In this example, you should remember yesterday is modifying leaving. It does not modify she. So yesterday is not an adjective. This is an adverb. We went there. Where did we go? So we went there. There again modifies the verb went, which is in the past form. It was too hot. To what degree or how much hot it was? It was too hot. So too here modifies hot, which is another adjective. Hot is again referring to the environment, the climate of day or weather. So hot here is an adjective. To modifies hot. So to becomes an adverb. The types of adverbs now. The types of adverbs can be following. Interrogative adverbs which introduce questions. How? How did you break your leg? When? When does your plane leave? How often? How often do you run? And where? Where did you put the mousetrap? So after covering adverbs, we'll come to the next part of speech, which is the preposition. So what is a preposition? A preposition introduces a noun or pronoun or a phrase or clause functioning in the sentence as a noun. Now what does that mean? The word or word group that the preposition introduces is its object. Let us understand this now with the help of an example. They received a postcard from Bobby telling about his trip to Canada. So a preposition is basically a linking word which links different nouns together, or it links a noun to a verb. I went to Canada last year. So to here is a preposition. It is linking went with Canada. In this sentence, as you can see, from Bobby. Bobby is a noun. So from is a preposition. It is linking receiving a postcard with Bobby. About his trip. So about is another preposition. To Canada. To is again a preposition. Canada being a noun, proper noun. The preposition never stands alone. A preposition would never come alone. It would always have some other words which are being linked by a preposition. A preposition can link either a noun with a pronoun. That would be the object of preposition. You can, an example coming up, you can press those leaves under glass. So under is a preposition here. Glass becomes the object. It can have, a preposition can have more than one object also. Her telegram to Nina and Ralph brought good news. So there are two objects to this preposition here, which are Nina and Ralph. To is the preposition. So object can have modifiers also. It happened during the last examination. During is a preposition which is linking happening with examination. And last is a modifier. Last is the adjective that is modifying the examination. Now here we have some examples of some of the very commonly used prepositions. We can just have a look and we can move on to the next type of part of speech. The examples are aboard, about, above, across, after, against, along, among, around, at, before, by, down, during, of, until, upon, with, within, without. If you keep them in your mind, they would help you in solving the questions related to prepositions. So after prepositions, we've come to the next type of part of speech, that is the conjunction. A conjunction is a word that joins words or group of words. Now what does that mean? Let's understand it with the help of an example. Ram and Mohan are good friends. So here and is a conjunction which is joining the two words, two nouns, which are Ram and Mohan. I could not come to the class yesterday because I was ill. So because is a conjunction here which is relating the two clauses, I could not come to the class, with the rest of the part, that is I was ill. So words like and, words like along with, words like hence, as a result of, furthermore, or, nor, but, all are conjunctions. You can always have some correlative conjunctions like either or, neither nor. They always come together in pairs. Now we come to the last type of part of speech, that is an interjection. Interjection basically means an exclamatory word that expresses an emotion. It is generally followed by an exclamation mark. Let us understand with the help of some examples. Hurrah, we've won the match. So if you say we've won the match, that does not express that emotion. Placing a word like hurrah expresses that emotion in a better manner. And as I said, you should always have an exclamatory mark coming after hurrah. Oh, we lost the match. Ouch, I've been hurt. Hey, you are here. So all of them are certain examples of interjection words. Goodness, what a cute baby. Wow, look at that sunset. So here we've covered all the 8 parts of speech. Let us revise what all parts of speech we've done. We started with nouns first. A noun is a name of a place, person, or a thing. It can be an idea also. We talked about certain types of nouns also, like concrete nouns, abstract nouns, collective nouns, common and proper nouns. After nouns, we covered verbs. Verb is an action, can be broadly of 3 types: present, past, or future. We talked about pronouns then. In pronouns, we covered personal pronouns, interrogative pronouns, and possessive pronouns. After pronouns, we talked about adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives are the words which modify a noun or a pronoun. Adverbs, on the other hand, modify verbs. Then we talked about prepositions. Prepositions are words like on, off, into, above, about. All of them are prepositions. Conjunctions, on the other hand, are words which connect nouns together or which connect clauses together. Words like and, along with, either, neither, all are conjunctions. And then lastly, we talked about interjections. Interjection is an exclamatory mark word. So here we've come to the end of the session today. Hope you've been able to develop a good understanding of different parts of speech. We'll continue further on parts of speech and different other areas of English grammar and the errors based on them in the coming classes to continue. Thank you.